What's up YouTube? In this video we will be learning how to solve quadratic equations by factorizing. In specific, we're going to be working with trinomials and difference of squares, right? So let's do our first example. So let's say we are given an expression like, actually an equation like 4x squared minus 9 equals to 0. And obviously we're told to factorize. We're told to solve for x. So how would you go about solving for x in this case? So the first step is for us to be able to know that this is a difference of squares. So what is a difference of squares for a lot of people who don't know? Difference of squares is basically difference is the minus in between the two terms, right? So there isn't anything called sum of squares that doesn't factorize, but in this case it's what we it's a difference of squares, and what we have is the two terms can be square rooted and we're gonna get a perfect square, right? And if you pay attention, if we have 4x squared and we square root it, we know that we can get 2x, which is a perfect square, right? So that's basically what the concept of a perfect square is. And obviously if we square root 9, we're going to get 3. So that's a perfect square. Plus minus 3. Sorry, it's not 3. So how do we go about factorizing that? So if we have a difference of squares and we need to factorize it, the skeleton is kind of like the same as the one, as a trinomial one. Let me just get rid of this. As a trinomial one, where now we first write the two brackets. So now we're going to square root 4x squared, and if we square root it, we know that we get 2x, and obviously the other 2x, we put it there, right? So now, since it's a difference of squares, every single time we have a minus, the signs have to be different, right? So it's minus and plus, and then we square root 9. When we square root 9, or not even square root to be specific, it's just what two terms can we multiply to get 9. It's 3 and negative. It's negative 3 and 3, which give us minus 9. So we're going to fill in those terms. And that's basically how we factorize a trinomial. So in this case, we're just going to say 2x minus 3 is equals to 0, or 2x plus 3 is equals to 0. And then obviously we're going to transpose the 3 to the other side. Now we have 2x is equals to 3. Divide both sides by 2. We have x is equals to 3 over 2. And we're going to do the same on the other equation. Transpose that to the other side. We have 2x is equals to minus 3. Divide both sides by 2. Now we have x is equals to minus 3 over 2, since these two are going to cancel out. That's basically how we factorize a trinomial. Let's do another example. So that's how we basically factorize or solve the equation of a difference of two squares. Now let's do another example. Okay, so now let's look at another simple example of difference of squares. Let's say now we're given something like let's say it was 16x squared minus 49 equals to 0, and they tell us obviously to factorize. So we know that there's a difference of squares. 16 is a perfect square, x squared is a perfect square, and 49 is a perfect square, and the difference of two squares comes from the minus. So we know that everything kind of aligns for us to be able to factorize as a difference of two squares, right? So now we're going to draw a skeleton equals to 0, and we're going to say what is the square root of 16x squared. We know that gives us 4x, and we're going to do the same on the other bracket. And then we say minus plus, and then we say what is the square root of 49. We know that will be 7, and we're going to add the 7 to the other side. So now we have 4x minus 7 equals to 0, or 4x plus 7 equals to 0. So obviously we're going to transpose, or just add 7 on both sides. Here we're going to subtract 7 on both sides. And here we have 4x is equals to 7. And here we have 4x is equals to minus 7. And then obviously we're going to divide both sides by 4. Our final answer will be 7 over 4, or x is equals to minus 7 over 4. So that's basically how we solve an equation of a difference of two squares. Now let's try solving an equation of a trinomial. Okay, so now let's say we have a trinomial that goes like this. We have x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals to 0, right? So obviously the coefficient of x squared is 1. So now we look at the two terms of negative 7 that if we multiply, they're going to give us negative 7. And if we add them together, they're going to give us 6x, right? So now we draw a skeleton, say x and x. The reason why I say x and x is obviously because the coefficient of x squared is 1. So I just have to say x and x, which will obviously give me back x squared, right? So now those two terms of 7 that will give me negative plus 6 would be 7 and negative 1. If I add these two together, I'm going to get 6. And if I multiply them together, I'm obviously going to get negative 7. So I'm just going to fill that here. And I'm going to say 7 minus 1 equal to 0, right? So now I know that x plus 7 is equals to 0, or x minus 1 equals to 0. And then obviously I'm going to add transpose the 7 to the other side, and I have x is equals to minus 7, and here I have x is equal to 1. So in this type of situation, if you're really not sure about your answer, what you need to do is check by substituting both of these values into the equation and see if it makes sense, right? So in this case, I would say minus 7 squared plus 6 minus 7 minus 7 has to be equal to 0. I know that's minus 7 squared will give me 49. I know that 6 multiplied by minus 7, that will give me minus 42, and minus 7 have to be equal to 0, right? So I know that's 49 minus 49 equal to 0. So I know that this is valid, and I'm going to do the same thing for 1. And if it's valid, then my answers are correct. So that's it for basically solving quadratic equations by factorizing. Please hit the like, subscribe button, comment, and share with your friends, and let them know about ASW Tutors. See you in the next video.